In the first quarter, DiJonai Carrington just slapped the dog shit out of Sophie Cunningham. Sophie pops up. She's obviously upset. DiJonai says, "Try me." And then look at Stephanie White. Look at her face. Look. She's mad as shit. Now, number one, this is obviously a flagrant 2. It just is. By the letter of the law, reps are not.
That girl needs to be thrown out the league. She's not even a good enough player to be bringing this type of drama. She needs to be thrown.
Welcome back. Today's story has sparked a fresh wave of reactions across the WNBA, with a major Reebok deal putting Sophie Cunningham in the spotlight and leaving fans wondering how DiJonai Carrington feels about it. Did Sophie really take Carrington's spot, and why has this deal created so much buzz? Stay with me until the end as we break down the story, the reactions, and what it could mean going forward. Let's jump straight into it. This season, DiJonai Carrington may be losing the one thing that was truly going her way, and based on how things are unfolding, she may be largely responsible for how quickly it is disappearing. This is not a calm or gradual fade either. This is the kind of collapse that happens right in front of cameras and millions of people scrolling through their phones in real time. And it all seems to stem from a few decisions she made during a single week on the bench. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 90% of viewers still haven't subscribed. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great! Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video.
Cunningham, otherwise known as MAGA Barbie in the WNBA, is a superstar player. She's one of the most famous female athletes in the world because she stood up for women in women's sports, saying only biological women should be allowed to play in the WNBA. And for that, she is literally risking her life. Check this out. This is what happened to Sophie Cunningham last night when she was clotheslined by a filthy, dirty player for Chicago who has a name that I can't pronounce, or maybe I just refuse to do that. That's my right as an American. But this is a player that has attacked Caitlin Clark, gouged her eye out, that has now bloodied the face of Sophie Cunningham. And as soon as she did this, she tweeted white privilege, meaning she's declaring this is a race crime. Now, if a white woman was doing this to black women, it'd be the #1 story in the world. She'd be banned from the league forever. But somehow black women are allowed to get away with this against white women. And it's white women in the league who make themselves a target by simply standing up for traditional values and
Rumor has it that Reebok is quietly considering ending its relationship with Carrington. Furthermore, the name being discussed to take her place on the list of approved athletes is not some unknown rookie. Sophie Cunningham is here. That's Sophie Cunningham, the same player Carrington has been fouling like she owes her money over the past week. Just a few months ago, no one would have predicted that these two names would become connected in a shoe deal story. So, if this is true, it would be one of the strangest turnarounds you will see in sports marketing this year, especially when these two players are on opposite sides of a dispute that could now put one of their careers at serious financial risk.
Goo! That's assault, brother. You can't do that. What the fuck? Is this just the default if you can't think? Or if you just like don't want to take accountability for your actions? Oh my god, this league, bro, this league. Bro, white privilege while you're wearing a bleach blonde dyed wig. I mean, the fuck? What is privileged about that? You Stone Cold Steve Austin clotheslined her ass. What about that is white privilege? The WNBA stays undefeated. It truly does. They can't get out of their own way.
This is how we arrived at this point. Carrington was signed by Reebok with the hope that she would represent their basketball line, someone with charisma, someone fans would want to support both on and off the court. That is what an endorsement contract is really about. Your jump shot is not the only thing a brand is paying for. They are also paying for the emotional impact you have on consumers when they see your name on a showbox or in an advertisement that plays before their favorite video. Additionally, DiJonai Carrington has not exactly helped people feel good lately. On the other hand, brands often notice this kind of change much faster than most fans do.
at this point how far from the plot we have actually gotten. And when I say the plot, I mean the basketball. How far from the game of basketball we have spiraled. When we're talking about the WNBA, you know, we used to joke, it's like, oh, 0 days without drama in the WNBA. This league is living up to it at a rate and a level of concern that we haven't ever had. With all the
craziness going on in the WNBA, DiJonai Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DiJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it. What the hell do y'all...
Carrington committed 3 different fouls in a single week, prompting viewers to replay the videos just to make sure they had actually seen everything correctly the first time. These were not hustle fouls, and they were not the kind of normal contact you could simply dismiss as 2 rivals fighting for position in a competitive league. These were the kinds of plays that made commentators pause for a moment because they did not even know what to say on television. And somehow, all of them involved Sophie Cunningham, which is exactly the kind of coincidence that starts to feel like more than a coincidence when it happens 3 times in such a short period.
Right across the face, coming down, trying to prevent the layup, but that is just a hard hit. That's definitely going to be upgraded, I think, to a flagrant 2, Ryan.
I think that is going to be a flagrant 2. There is
get what you fucking deserve.
And just getting her out of the
Lucky
way.
it wasn't a right hook.
Make no mistake about it. Carrington targeted Cunningham. She targeted her because of her political stances. She targeted Cunningham because of the praises that she keeps receiving. She targeted her with a dirty shot that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball. And then after getting ejected, she runs to the locker room to play the fucking victim card. Like she didn't try to just take off Cunningham's head in 4K. Like we all didn't just watch it happen. That is not competition. That is a grown woman swinging on someone who she disagrees with and then screaming racism when she gets held accountable for it. DiJonai Carrington needs to be held responsible, and I'm not talking about just getting ejected from the game. She deserves a suspension. Maybe she'll think twice next time before she tries to take...
Look, physical basketball is nothing new. Toughness has always been part of what makes this league interesting to watch, and nobody is asking players to go soft out there. However, there is a clear difference between being tough and being reckless, and many viewers who watched these clips felt that Carrington crossed that line multiple times within just a few days. Sleeping on it for one night does not make it a one-time bad moment. It starts to look like a pattern. And when a brand's marketing team is deciding who gets to continue wearing its logo on national television, they pay close attention to patterns like that.
The way Sophie Cunningham came down on her leg, she could have been injured. So they said, yo, get out of here, dog. Get out of here. Then, I don't know if y'all were looking at her lips. She was talking about, try me. Try me. Yo, you already tried Sophie? You got all the samples of Sophie. You talking about try me. What are you talking about? This lady is unhinged right now, man. This is crazy work. And it makes you wonder. It's like, dog, you were the best player for the Sky at this moment. Look how she landed on the leg. Oh, my goodness. Like, you were the best player for the Sky. And you decided to do this? You weren't even thinking about the game. You was thinking about some kind of revenge or something. Somebody sent you on a mission. You were on a mission, dog. I don't know what you had going on here, but DiJonai, this is unacceptable. Disrespectful, disgusting, and I'm glad they got you up out of there.
Then came the interview that pushed the basketball story beyond the usual world of sports. Carrington did not exactly calm the situation in the way most players in her position might after being called out for the contact. While discussing Cunningham, she brought up the term white privilege instead of simply taking responsibility for the play and moving on. That turned a discussion about a physical foul into a much bigger conversation about intent, motive, and everything else that can come with a phrase that carries serious weight when it is said publicly in front of reporters. One thing is certain, whether you believe the remark was reasonable or whether it had anything to do with what actually happened on the court, the entire tone of the story changed, and not in a way that seemed likely to strengthen her position in front of the public.
From the flagrant 2 on DiJonai Carrington against Sophie Cunningham, where she proceeded to go into the locker room and tweet white privilege after being thrown out of the game. I'm not going to comment on that situation, but I will say this. This is a flagrant 2. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, don't matter. This is a flagrant. I mean, she clotheslined her. What more do you want? So this looks very bad. It just shows that the WNBA is nowhere near where they need to be professionally, because again, this is a clothesline. It's flagrant 2.
Furthermore, Cunningham has not actually retaliated in any way, at least not with her words. For the most part, she has simply continued to play, show up, and let her performance speak for itself. She has already dealt with a lot of noise this season in a similar way. Because of this difference, many people online have been wondering why one player is portrayed as the tough one, while the other is praised for maintaining her composure despite being the one who consistently absorbs the hits. Really, the image is straightforward. One player takes the hits and remains silent, while the other delivers the blows and then becomes outspoken about it. Fans are not the first to realize which of those images looks better on camera. Brands are even quicker to notice. Furthermore, social media did not stay quiet about all of this. One tweet that gained significant attention said, "Reebok still has DiJonai Carrington on an endorsement deal after she cheap shot Sophie Cunningham and screams white privilege." That person went even further, saying, "That person isn't an athlete. It's a liability." It was hardly a gentle take. Another strong message said, "Drop her or America drops you." That was someone taking a firm stance and challenging the brand to take action, and based on the comments below, many people agreed with nearly every word. Quote tweets began piling up, with people sharing their own receipts from previous games, old videos resurfacing, and screenshots of earlier remarks. All of this was being combined into a larger argument against Carrington remaining on the brand's roster at all.
She said white privilege. That is the story. The story isn't that she got kicked out. It's that she tweeted out white privilege as though because Sophie Cunningham is white, somehow that's why she got kicked out. They go on to defend her, the story, the narrative that she's not a dirty player. She makes plays like this all the time. I put together a little clip of DiJonai Carrington, who is definitely one of the dirtiest players in the WNBA. I don't know if we can roll it, but she's taken her long fingernails. She's scratched Caitlin Clark's eyes out. She's had multiple instances of chasing people down from behind, trying the same swat and smashing them in the head and causing mini fights. She pulled another girl's hair. I don't know if we'll get to that clip in a second when she's falling. Totally dirty play. This is not a skin color thing. She has a history of making dirty plays, and it's fine. The NBA, you can be a rough and tumble league. Now, where this thing gets absolutely bananas is when you start making it into a race and culture war, and the people talking about it are not mentioning 99% of the time that she went back and tweeted white privilege. White privilege how?
That is the kind of headline companies hate to see connected to their brand because people are publicly saying they will completely stop buying Reebok products as long as Carrington remains on the list of endorsed athletes. This is becoming more than just fans venting for a day and forgetting about it by the weekend. When consumers start threatening a boycott because of an athlete's actions, the marketing team stops simply debating the situation internally and starts urgently looking for a solution. After all, it is much harder to explain falling sales during a quarterly earnings call than it is to explain a bad foul on a highlight show the next morning.
Paying attention to what DiJonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by DiJonai Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. DiJonai, you hit her in the head and you drew blood.
Carrington attempted to walk some of it back. She gave a statement and made some more subdued remarks to the media, in an effort to present the entire situation as intense competition rather than something deliberate or personal. On paper, that is usually the best approach. Take responsibility, soften the situation, move on, and let the next strong performance speak for itself. However, because it happened after 3 fouls and 1 offensive remark, the attempt to step back from the situation has not gone the way these things normally do. People could not simply forget and move on after one negative moment within a day or two. Once a pattern is already out there through slow-motion footage being shared everywhere across social media and other platforms, a single apology does not really repair 3 separate incidents layered on top of each other during the very same week.
Act as though you discovered the moon. You can't act as though you are the genius in a room and everybody else is idiotic. What I mean by that is, if you are going to suggest that we should think critically about a statement, white privilege, when you at the Indiana Fever, you didn't give us much to think critically about. You uttered a phrase, white privilege, of which is both incredibly inflammatory and also a very volatile word, but you didn't give us any context. So now we, as the interpreter, since you posted it publicly on Threads for the world to see, we, the interpreter, now have to try to figure out what exactly were you talking about? Well, common sense would deduce that you were talking about fouling a white individual and getting ejected for fouling that white individual. Now, as I said on social media and I will say in real life, if that is not what you were talking about implying, then that's on me. I will stand down and I will stand corrected. But the last thing I must again reiterate, we live in a speaker-oriented country. Speaker-oriented, receiver-oriented. Speaker-oriented country. It is on you, the speaker, to be clear, to be direct, and to be obvious with what you are speaking about. It is not on the receiver, the reader, or the listener.
And from a strictly business perspective, that is the main issue here. Apart from any discussion about who was right or wrong regarding the plays themselves, analysts looking at the situation have pointed out that endorsement deals depend on one simple question. Does the average consumer want to see this person advertising a brand they buy from the store? An athlete earns the offer in the first place because of their skill on the court, but likability and public trust are what keep that contract going once the cameras are focused on something other than a highlight reel. Right now, depending on how this week has played out, that trust is looking shaky. And fragile trust is exactly the kind of thing that can cause a brand to quietly start looking for a replacement. While the current arrangement is officially still valid on paper, this brings us back to Sophie Cunningham and why, instead of another player on the roster, her name is being mentioned as a possible replacement. Since athletes usually do not represent competing shoe brands at the same time in this kind of sport, Cunningham's current position with Adidas would normally make her an unlikely choice for a Reebok deal. Reebok, however, is reportedly considering a creative way around that situation, with a possible plan that would allow Cunningham to keep wearing her Adidas shoes while still finding a way to bring her into the Reebok family. It would almost look like a direct peace offering to fans who have been asking the company to make a change for some time. This unusual arrangement would show just how badly Reebok may want to improve its image right now, quickly and publicly, before more customers decide to leave for good.
Saying this, and I know it's a joke. Love a trans foul. This is essentially celebrating a player getting clobbered. You are on TV. You are. Not these other people online. You are. You were on TV basically saying Caitlin Clark was soft for taking a fist to the neck from Alyssa Thomas. You are. You got opportunities because of this organization. You got opportunities because of the like Caitlin Clark brought on your head. You did. You benefited from it. You joined the Indiana Fever for those benefits. You took those benefits. You became more notorious. And then as soon as you leave, you rejoin the sisterhood. Then it's against Caitlin Clark. And you are celebrating a player getting taken.
Take a moment to consider how unusual that is. According to the reports, a company may be willing to share space with a rival shoe brand just to bring in an athlete who represents the opposite side of the situation that is now causing them problems. That is not a casual gesture. It would mean the company is quietly acknowledging, without saying it directly in a public statement, that keeping its current athlete may be more damaging than giving up some of its exclusivity. A company's internal numbers are often much worse than anything it is willing to publicly share with reporters or shareholders when it starts breaking its normal rules in an effort to win back customer trust. And the timing could not be worse for Carrington. She was not simply taking a risk on a small transaction. Endorsement contracts often include clauses designed for situations exactly like this, including issues involving behavior, public image, and anything that could publicly embarrass the brand connected to an athlete's name. In a single week, there were 3 careless fouls and an offensive remark involving a fellow player. That is exactly the kind of situation those clauses are designed to address. Reebok is hardly the only company watching what happens next. Other brands pay attention to stories like this as well because no company wants to become the next one forced to explain to angry customers why its athlete is still receiving checks after a week like this. And because of that kind of reaction, an athlete can sometimes end up risking more than one endorsement deal at the same time.
I don't think that DiJonai intentionally came out to get her across the neck like she did, but it did happen, and I thought it was the right call. But, you know, one of the things about Nay is that she's going to play her butt off, man. She's going to compete. Nobody's going to go walking in for a layup. And so I don't oppose the hard foul, but I also don't think that she intentionally went to the net.
The fact that none of this had to happen the way it did makes it even more frustrating. In basketball, fouls happen every single night, and most of them are forgotten by the next morning. None of this would have become a serious enough issue to threaten a major shoe deal if Carrington had committed one hard foul and handled the aftermath calmly. It was the combination of everything that made the difference. Her attempt to step back came a little too late to change the online story that had already formed days earlier. 3 incidents happening one after another, with a controversial remark added at the worst possible time. It takes much more than a polite comment to reporters after the damage has already been done to convince fans that an athlete is still a good fit for promotion. Additionally, not enough people seem to be talking about the timing of all this. Everything happened during a part of the season when every game is being filmed, while highlight accounts are actively searching for controversial moments to record and repost within minutes. Before the night was even over, a questionable foul that might have gone unnoticed during a random mid-season game in an empty arena was being shared across multiple platforms almost instantly, with different accounts showing the same moment from several angles. That kind of visibility works both ways. It can quickly turn a great moment into a viral highlight, but it can also turn one bad decision into a week-long news cycle that a company may no longer want its brand connected to.
Players who commits a clear flagrant 2 and then tweets white privilege right after she goes to the locker room. You can't then cry that this is being talked about in racial terms in a culture. She started that. This is a basketball play. The second you go white privilege, and they are talking about it on these telecasts without mentioning what she tweeted. Oh, they're turning into a culture war, turning into a race war. This is our league. Don't let conservatives or the right hijack it. Your player tweeted white privilege and it had nothing.
While everyone around her seems to be debating everything except basketball itself, Cunningham continues to play under pressure, absorb contact without complaining, and let her game do most of the talking. The optics currently favor her side of the story, regardless of whether the Reebok situation actually plays out the way the rumors suggest. This is the kind of moment brands usually look at when deciding who deserves attention during the upcoming season and beyond. So, what does this mean for DiJonai Carrington? Right now, she is in limbo, watching an endorsement deal that she probably thought was secure suddenly become a very serious question mark, all because of choices made during a difficult week and a few games. Whether Reebok actually follows through with ending its relationship with her, or whether this eventually fades away like many sports controversies once the news cycle moves on to something else, remains to be seen. But based on the current situation, one thing seems pretty clear. Right now, a lot of people do not like what they have seen from her over the past week. And for brands, the character an athlete shows during these intense moments can matter just as much as anything that appears on the stat sheet at the end of the season.